So welcome to the info session for our programs in Athens and Rome. These are two really wonderful programs, and I'm excited to have a chance to talk to you all about them tonight. Couple of housekeeping things. So first, as I mentioned, I am recording this event to be able to ultimately send to students. You won't see any of you all; it'll just be me and our ambassadors here. But just to let you know, I am recording this. Let's see what else. There is a sign-in sheet that's going around. So if you all can please make sure that you sign that. I'll check again before we wrap up to make sure everyone's on there, so I can keep you posted about anything related to these programs. Yeah, that's about it. It's so good to see you all. So we're really privileged to have two representatives of the program in Athens here with us tonight. So why don't y'all introduce yourselves?
I'm Stephen Durkis. I'm a senior, and I was in Athens last semester.
And what's your major?
Classics.
I am Mariana. I'm also a senior, and I'm an art history double major, and I was also at Athens last semester.
Fantastic. So yeah, let's get right into it then. All right. So I think it's useful for me to just show of hands. Who was able to attend the general info session last night? Yeah, so a good chunk of you. Great. Okay. So this will be a little bit of a review, just this section, but I think it's important to make clear. So again, broadly speaking, two types of programs at Holy Cross. You got programs in English-speaking countries and programs in non-English-speaking countries. English-speaking countries, you're at a university taking courses in English. This is Ireland, UK, Australia, right? We also have, again, as I said, programs in non-English speaking countries, right? Athens and Rome are a good example of that, right? But I want to distinguish between the two types that we have there and let you know where sort of Athens and Rome fit into that mix, right? So you've got language immersion programs on one hand, right, where you are direct enrolling at a local university, taking courses in that host language. So, and the goal of these programs is to get you as far along in terms of developing advanced proficiency in that language as possible, right? So for those, the University of Florence is a good example where you are taking courses in Italian alongside Italian students. You're living with a host family, like everything about your experience is about learning Italian, right? Those are the typical programs that we offer in those host in language immersion programs, in programs outside of English-speaking countries. The second category of programs are field studies programs, and these Athens and the Rome programs, these are a perfect example of this. So these ones are really different in that they are based not at a local university where your fellow students are local students, or like local Italian students. Here you're based at an independent center where you're taking courses in English alongside often other American students, right? Typically from other colleges and universities in the US. And here the purpose is not for you to develop advanced proficiency in a language. Awesome if you're able to, and we'll give you some resources to help in that respect. But the goal here is to provide you with really rich field experiences in your discipline, right? In general, at Holy Cross, we try to avoid a situation where we're sending students to places where they don't have the resources to immerse themselves and integrate into the local host culture, right? So we're trying to avoid the sort of ugly American stereotype of sending students to places where they're speaking English the whole time and they're like American bubbles. They're not integrating in a meaningful way. So we relax that when we have places where we think that for certain disciplines, these programs just provide really awesome things in that context to enrich their study. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. So just to be clear, that this is an example of that. We'll get into the details in that in a minute. But let's get right into it, and we'll talk about CYA. So this program has been around for a long time. It was founded in 1962. It is in the absolute heart of Athens, next to the Marble Stadium. You have this spectacular view of the Acropolis from the balcony. I bet you guys miss that view. Yeah. Oh, it's remarkable. I mean, when I tell you this is in the heart of that, it is in the absolute heart of Athens. They have awesome facilities there, and their center, obviously classroom, library, the student lounge. They have dining hall with reportedly great food. I've had it once and I had an awesome experience. Computer lab, auditorium, and laundry facilities. The language of instruction, as I mentioned, is English, right? You have opportunities to study modern Greek. Of course, that would be in Greek, but the rest of your courses are delivered in English. Historically, the program has offered both apartments and homestays. we'll see how things end up looking come the time, fall and spring of the, next year when you guys will be going abroad. For now, apartments are what are being offered. Homestays, if you're at all interested, are a phenomenal experience, and we highly recommend it if they end up being available. But for now, apartments are what they offer. And in terms of meals, lunches are provided at the academic center. Your breakfast and dinner, ultimately, you'll be living in apartments that are equipped with kitchen facilities, and the idea is that you'll be preparing, getting groceries and cooking those meals for yourself. One of the things that's really awesome about CYA, and both of these programs have this in common, is that they are designed, as I said, to give you these really extraordinary field experiences to get to where you're basically your city, your region, your country are your classroom, right? So you have opportunities, three essential types. You have these on-site experiences throughout Athens, where you're going to different museums and sites of cultural and historical interest. There are faculty-led study trips in Greece, where you've got 3 that are sort of built into the curriculum and into the fixed cost of the program. And then you also have a range of opt-in practicum opportunities where you can participate in faculty research. You can do volunteering and service learning, and participate in internships. And so it's, again, a really wonderful opportunity for students to get these really in-depth hands-on experiences. So I want to give these students a chance to talk about their experiences. We're going to start with Stephen, because he has to leave soon. Let's talk about just some of the key things. Like let's begin with academics. Talk a little bit about some of the courses that you took and what your experience of the program was academically.
Yeah, so the classes I took, I wrote them down on my phone. I took ancient Greek, intro to modern Greek, a class on the history of Macedon, focusing on the life of Alexander the Great, a class called digital archaeology, and then a class on the topography and monuments of ancient Athens. I was going to take 4. I signed up for 5 in the hopes of dropping one, and I couldn't decide which one to drop, so I just took all 5 of them. It was a little more work, but it was definitely worth it. They were all just phenomenal courses. I met so many cool professors. I had a professor from England, from Turkey, and then the rest were Greek. But top-notch academics, top-notch professors and faculty. And it was a lot of work, but it was all worth it and very fulfilling.
Can you talk a little bit about, I know obviously you guys were studying during a particular moment in history here. So can you talk a little bit about what the field experiences that you were able to have under the circumstances?
Yeah, so normally throughout the semester, there are certain trips, like weekend trips, that are offered around Greece. Due to travel restrictions, we couldn't really have those. So the last week of the program, we took a week-long trip around Greece. We went to Delphi, you're gonna have to help me out, Thessaloniki, Olympia, Sparta, all the classic sites. Yeah, we went 2 different buses, so we kind of focused on separate things, but so we got a pack of information there, visited a lot of museums, because all of the museums were closed until the last week of classes. But this class, the topography and monuments of Athens, it's based in walking around the city and touring and looking and talking about the monuments. And due to travel restrictions on how many could gather, the first couple of classes were online, but as the restrictions were lifted, we eventually walked around, and I got to have a private tour of the Acropolis with this man who's does this for a living and studies such things. And
that's unheard of, by the way. That's really getting that kind of access to the Acropolis is it's unheard of. So
we also got to go inside the Acropolis, which is
so you're going great. Hopefully that's enough. That's all I've heard. All I need to hear. Everyone leaves. Yep. Mass exodus. Yeah.
Just like crazy stuff. CYA has loads of resources, and they can do a lot of things for their students, and they do. So.
It's awesome. And so it's 420 that you need to, because you want to be mindful. Yep, great. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience academically?
So I also took 5 classes because I wasn't planning on taking modern Greek, but I decided to take it, and I'm really glad I did. It was really helpful. like even just like, being able to like, order coffee in Greek and, because it's completely different alphabet. So being able to like, read the basic street signs and be able to, like, self-orient yourself, I would definitely recommend taking modern Greek while you're there. And so besides that, I took Byzantine art and architecture. I took the same history of Alexander the Great, seen right here. I took ancient Greek sculpture in art history class. Then I took anthropology class, gender and sexuality, monarchy, culture. Yeah.
Sounds all right.
And how was your experience in those classes?
I love them. Like they're so great. As you mentioned, we started off with like online classes, and some of my classes continued online throughout the semester. Like my Byzantine art and art history, that one stayed online the entire semester. But like especially my anthropology class and the history class, that one was a big like immersion class. So like our professors tried as much as they could to like have it in person, and so we'd have like outside classes in the parks. We'd go to like the National Gardens, which is a really beautiful park, like right in the middle of Athens. We'd go there, we'd have my anthropology class. We did a lot of like urban studies, kind of like analyzing gender and sexuality in the urban context in Athens. So we'd walk throughout the city and she'd point out buildings and we'd discuss them. It was a very like good way to have like class as opposed to just sitting in a classroom and learning from PowerPoint.
Can we talk a little bit about your surroundings? We touched a little bit about Athens, but tell us about Athens. Your take on Athens as a city.
I'm borrowing this phrase from one of my friends, but it's a very walkable city, and it's true. You can get anywhere by foot in about max 20 minutes. I was right down the street from the Marble Stadium. I was probably a 10-minute walk from the Acropolis. I lived across the street from this wonderful cafe bakery. I'm sure you can talk more about it. Kekko's, owned by a couple, and I mean, they took us in. They loved us. We loved them. Get free cookies and stuff. No promises, but just in like 5-minute walk from the grocery store. You can walk anywhere and have a beautiful sight. I went to I would go often to the stadium, just watch the sunset, and you can see the Acropolis from the stadium and the sun setting right next to it. And it's just, it's ridiculous. And there's also a couple hills that you can walk up to see the sunrise and sunset. Did that. There's just beautiful sights everywhere you go, and the people there love to walk. There's cats. You can talk more about that too. There's cats and dogs, and they're all friendly. And dogs are often off leashes, but they stay right next to their owners. And so many people are out and about and being with each other and hanging out in the open spaces, and
And it bears mentioning too that this is during sort of peak pandemic conditions where, ahead of the vaccination program. And that's going to be, you're going to hear that as a thread from me throughout. I mean, if we are having advising sessions too, what I like about having, what we're very grateful in terms of having ambassadors that have gone and experienced, study abroad during these conditions is that arguably these are as bad as it's going to get, right? And but what you're hearing from the students, I think, is, I mean, again, the question I put to all of y'all is do you regret having gone? Not even a little, right? I mean, that's like again, very consistent across the students. And so yes, I make a point of mentioning that because, there's, I have a lively city to take advantage of during, peak lockdown measures that are, one has to hope, and, things are moving, albeit slower than we'd all like. They're moving in that direction where things our hope and expectation is that your experience will be very different from what they had, right? And for the better. So that's Athens as a city. What about, oh yeah, I want to hear your take. Yeah, Athens as a city.
Yeah, so it's definitely very walkable. Like I, in general, don't have a car. So it's always like really hard to get around regular. And I was just like amazed how like that's not a problem in Athens. A lot of people don't have cars, and like you can walk everywhere. If you don't want to walk, if you're in a hurry, you can take it like a movie. There's a good app, and it gives you like real time of all like the subway, the trams, all the buses, everything connects. It's all like very much in sync. It's really affordable. You can get like a pass. If you're really wanting to go, you can take a taxi. The taxi is also way more affordable than they are here in the States. You take a taxi to the beach from Athens, and it's like €6 one way. A little with a friend, €3 each. So it's definitely like very easy to get around anywhere you want.
That's awesome. How about food?
The food there, I mean, this is an opinion, it's so wonderful. In the early parts of the semester, there were curfews, which I don't think there will be if you go, hopefully not, but they were at like 6 p.m. on the weekdays and like 7 on the weekends. So if you wanted to get food for dinner, you couldn't really go out. So there's this great app called Wolt, and it's a delivery service. Most of the deliveries are free. You just scroll and pick a restaurant, pick food, and then you wait like 20 minutes, and this guy in a motorcycle comes on with his blue backpack and rings your door, and then you get the food. And it was very lazy of me, but it was the only thing I could do if I wanted to try new foods around the city. And it was very convenient, and I'm sure Wolt will still be available if you go. But I mean, yeah, so the food is cheap and delicious.
Yeah, I second that. Yeah, there's a Walt and also eFoods, but Walt is superior. They're both like very convenient. You can order from like across Athens. The only time you have to pay the delivery fee, it's like over a certain amount of kilometers. So I only ever had to pay delivery for this one restaurant called Bucamendas, and that's this restaurant that sells like these really good Greek donuts, and I highly recommend it.
Worth the delivery fee then. Yep.
It is. It's only like a €2 delivery fee, so it's easy to split with a friend. And also like I'm vegan, so I was really worried about going to Greece being vegan. But in Athens, it's a very touristy city. There's a lot of people from different countries, a lot of people with different diets. So they're very accommodating with like different diets. I had no problems in Athens being vegan at all. A lot of restaurants offer vegan options. Right near CYA, there's a Domino's pizza. Domino's in Greece offers vegan pizzas and vegan pizzas. A lot of like the Bucamendas, they have a vegan menu, vegan donuts. A lot of places will like make vegan food for you. And then during their Lent, which is kind of different because it's based in the Orthodox religion instead of like Catholicism, so their Lent is a little bit different date-wise. But so they have like a Lenten menu, which a lot of Orthodox follow, and it basically requires like no dairy, no meat, no like fish, right? No like seafood and like a lot of like other stuff that wouldn't be vegan. And so if you're ever like in a smaller town or whatever, and like you're talking to people who don't speak that much English, you just ask for Lenten food, and they'll like make something for you, and it's gonna be vegan.
Awesome pro tip. In the 2 minutes we've got left with you, Stephen, I want to ask you about relationships. So social relationships, and then just in terms of faculty, things that you've gotten out of the experience.
Yeah, so I had 2 great roommates. I got to know them well during our quarantine. I still talk to them on the regular. I'm hoping to visit them or them come visit me. Hopefully this semester if it works out. But there were 30 of us total in the program, which is smaller than normal, but we got to know each other so well because we would just walk around the city together, and different apartments would come over to different apartments for dinner, and following the guidelines on how many people would be in a room. So met a lot of great students from America there, but also the faculty. I'm going to ask for a letter of recommendation from one of my professors soon. Hopefully, yes, I think he will. But it was similar to Holy Cross, I think, and I think I got to know them better actually than the professors at Holy Cross, just because there were smaller classrooms, and I don't know. You're walking around the city with the professor, and they live there, and yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I great relationships with the professors, and even with the president of the school. Like I got to know him well, and the administration there is just so open and kind and welcome, and
they run an awesome shop.
They do, they really do. And then I mentioned the couple across the street at Kekos. Those were the only locals that I got to know really, really well because their shop was open the whole time we were there. But I mean, if that's a representation of other Greeks, which I think it is, they're just lovely people. So it's awesome.
Very good. Well, Stephen, I want to be mindful of your time. I know you got to shove off, but thank you to Stephen for joining us. Absolutely. And Stephen is an official ambassador as well. So, if you have questions for him, you can find his information on the website. Awesome. And how about for you, social experiences in both in terms of, friends and then also, faculty and that sort of thing?
So kind of like Stephen said, like my both my roommates were also like not from Holy Cross, they were both from the Chapel Hill. So I got to know them really well. I got to know like a lot of students from like other causes across the country. There's was only like 30 of us total. Usually the programs run around 150 students, so it's a bigger cohort. But yeah, we got to know each other. We'd go to like parks together. We'd go to like the beach. We'd hang out. And so even like in this pandemic, when we couldn't do a lot of like going out to eat or anything like that, because restaurants were like closed for like dining until like the last few weeks. But we still got to know each other like really well, and in classes and outside of classes, and just like seems like the professors are like they're so understanding, so accommodating, like what they really want you to have like the best experience you can possibly have. Like that's their mission. That's the entire school's mission. Like our last official like day there, like we were invited to the president's and his wife's home over for dinner. We had like a big like goodbye meal. Throughout the semester, I got invited to like one of my professors' houses for like we'd have like a dinner in class with them. They made us like homemade food and everything, and it's just like a very nice way to have a class as opposed to just like sitting in a classroom all day long. So it's just like yeah, they're very accommodating. Very nice. They have like a conference options you could do. I think Stephen actually did the academic conference. You could do, and they were like you could email them. A lot of them will give you like their WhatsApp numbers. So, like one of my professors, she was like so lovely. You could be writing papers. I literally would message her like 3 a.m. in the morning, and she'd literally reply in like 5 minutes. So like definitely they're the best.
That's awesome. What are some other things that for you made CYA such a special experience for you?
I'd say everything is a special experience, but
Is there any thing that we didn't cover in terms of we talked about academics and the city, and sort of relationships? Is there anything else that we didn't have a chance to mention that you wanted to emphasize?
I would just say like just to re-emphasize like how like interpersonal it is. Like they're really focused on you like doing the best you can, like in academics or like always willing to help you academically. They literally provide like every student's like lunches, but they have like this company that makes them, but they're like all like handmade, like they're like a lot of them are like traditional Greek lunches, so you get to like have like a good immersion to like Greek food, and they're like big portions too. So sometimes you have to eat the same thing for dinner too. So I'm just like save half my lunch. So that's really nice, and like they have all these advice. You can literally email them or ask them. If you recommend what restaurant do you recommend? Where should I go to hang out? Where do I do that? How to say this in Greek, whatever. Like they'll always reply. They're always going to be there to help you, whatever random question you might have. Like I remember like my phone broke down. Like I lost my charger broke down for my phone, and like all the electronics was closed and everything. So I couldn't know how to obtain the charger, whatever. And I just one of the administrative ladies there, and she replied to me, and they sent someone to order me a charger, and they brought it to my apartment the next day. So like they're very 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 like lovely.
That's awesome. So you all have a privilege here in this particular session in that we've got somebody on a program that went there this past year. So not everyone on among the info sessions that we host this time around is going to have that available to them. So I urge you in this moment to take advantage of that opportunity and ask Mariana any questions that you have. There's no question too small. So fire away. What are some questions that you all have having heard this?
I mean, this might be like a super quick, but like
No stupid questions. They don't exist.
if you can go back, would you choose anywhere else, or Greece be like you're definitely number one?
So I never applied to be. That was never like a part of me. Like I was convinced of going like to Italy. That program got ended up being closed, and it just ended up being like a very happy accident. Like because it wasn't something I would have probably chosen for myself. I'm really glad I went. And like every single day, I just I go through my phone, just look at all the happy moments. Like I wish I could go back. Like I'm in the process of applying to like grad schools in Europe. Like Greece is one of those places I'm looking to. It definitely creates a place in your heart. So I would definitely go back. Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if this is too personal, you don't have to answer, but in terms of like finances, did you just save up until then? Were there any work opportunities? Like, how did you manage groceries and travel expenses?
Well, that's a really good question. That's actually something I was really worried about. But I ended up working at Sonic before last time we went for the pandemic for when we got some home, I found a job at Sonic, and I just worked there, like saving up for Reese, and then I got like a scholarship, and I got like Holy Cross is really good financial aid, like whatever you pay tuition wise, whatever financial aid you have normally, that transfers no matter where you go. So like if you have, like 100% need-based financial aid, or 90%, whatever financial aid you have, you can do the same thing no matter where you go. And like so the complete offsets your cost. So you don't have to pay like any of like the extra fees of like being in the country. So you just have to pay like your regular things like groceries and stuff like that. And I didn't find that problematic at all. Like I had enough saved up and everything that I could like, and food there is like cheap. Like it's cheaper than in the US. Even I mean you have to keep in mind that like a euro is worth more than US dollar, but just in general, like the foods are very like affordable. You can go out to eat and you spend like €6 on a meal, which translates roughly around $9 for like a full meal for yourself.
And on that note too, so when you are having meetings with your financial aid counselors and talking about planning for the coming year, you should go into those meetings and telling them that and requesting that whatever you would ordinarily be asking for in terms of paying for your Holy Cross tuition and also housing and board charges, whatever you would be asking for financial aid to cover those normal sort of what we call the full cost of attendance at Holy Cross, you should be doing the exact same thing, because the idea is that when it comes to though the program, basically the Holy Cross will only charge you when it comes to the food. They will only charge you for whatever the program happens to give you. So it's sort of prorated, right? So they're only giving you one meal 5 days a week, right? I mean, it wasn't on the weekends, right? So I forget exactly how that ends up working out, but it'll end up being something like either a quarter board or like a third board or something along those lines. And the idea is that you're paying for the rest of it out of pocket. But if you're here on campus right now and you're getting like a full meal plan, Holy Cross isn't going to charge you for that full cost of that board fee, right? So whatever financial aid you ordinarily take out to cover that cost, you simply ask for that again. And then, assuming that when the dust settles, the financial aid didn't end up paying for, 2/3 of the board fee that you would ordinarily paying for, that savings you're able to then, claim as a refund check from the bursar, pop that into a checking account, and then use that as kind of a declining balance to pay for groceries. And all of the sort of the bigger expenses like tuition and the housing fee are identical to what you pay at Holy Cross. And then, with the plane ticket, I mean, you really should go into it expecting to have to pay in advance for your plane ticket. And then you get, as I said, a discount on your tuition for the semester that you go abroad that's in the amount of the plane ticket. So it's offset in sort of that way. Things like visa fees, passport, if you haven't yet gotten one, which I'll reiterate, if you don't have a valid passport that's valid through January 2024, you really need to get on that and apply for either a new passport or renewal, whatever you need. But those fees would be the student's responsibility. Anybody has concerns about finances too, I urge you to set up an appointment with me. I've got tools that I can use to sort of do basic budgeting types of things. So you can kind of see what, a month, in the life might look like, a week in the life, and kind of like, extrapolate, what that would look like over the course of the semester. So if that would be helpful, that's something I might have to do. Yep. Other questions for Mariana?
Did you get to pick your roommates, or was it just randomly assigned?
It was just randomly assigned, but I'm really glad it was, because I probably would have tried to like stay with some Holy Cross students, and I wouldn't have gotten to know my roommates from other colleges as well.
This is sort of similar. So you're with, right, other students from the US. How did they impact your experience?
That's a good question. I would say like I'm still really close to like my roommates and a few other students. Like we normally text regularly, we FaceTime. So I would say like it really like it makes you comfortable, especially when you come there. I never had a culture shock, but some people do. So like it helped a lot of people like ease into like having people like speak the same language, have similar cultural experiences to you that you live with. But it's also like a little bit of a difference because they're not from the same school. They might not be the same states, whatever. So it's just like an easier way to kind of like immerse yourself before you go fully immerse into like the good culture. But I really liked, and like even though like we were all Americans, but like we really tried to like get into like we go into like groups and we go within the city, try to like interact with like the local culture too.
On that note too, something that is a consistent bit of feedback about these center-based programs where all of your classmates are Americans and often, you know, a majority from other colleges and universities from the US, is this idea that those friendships are really just these connections you make because you're in the sort of the trench experience and this sort of same boat effect where you're all processing, you know, this new experience together. Really, really strong bonds, particularly for such a short period of time, you know what I mean, for like a semester, where it's extremely common for students to then report to me, oh yeah, over, you know, spring break, I'm planning to meet up with my friends over in Chicago that are, you know what I mean? That is almost every student has some kind of a story along those lines. So it's an awesome way to extend your network beyond Holy Cross and connect with folks, yeah, in that sense. Yeah.
Like, I have to second that, like this summer, even me and a few other ones from Holy Cross, we got to meet up with some of the other CYA students from like other schools around here in Northeast for the summer. So we got like a nice all weekend together. So that was really fun. I'm hoping to see one other friend who lives outside of Chicago is around Christmas break. But yeah, definitely, because you know you live together, especially like for us like, in the pandemic, we're like a lot in the apartment a lot together. So you know you really get to know each other like very, very well.
What other questions do you all have? Yes. No, far
Did you
away.
go during the spring?
Yeah.
Did you, I know you weren't there in the fall, but did you like the spring in Greece?
I love this thing.
Okay.
It is way warmer than it is here in Massachusetts. It did actually snow the second we were.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, those
that-
pictures were
that's
something.
what you would, you know, expect. It was like a historic snow. Like people were like, it was all over all the news and everything. It just doesn't usually snow in Greece at all. I would say like do pack like some warm clothes because you'll need them. Well, you guys will need them towards the end of your semester. But like it doesn't usually gets like I would say like at the most high 40s, but usually it's like around like the low 50s, like in like the winter weather. So like a sweater, you know, and like a light jacket is like enough. But mostly, but do pack. I didn't pack a lot of like summery clothes, and that was one of the things I regretted most was like not packing up summer clothes. Definitely do pack more summer clothes than you think you'll need because it is warmer than you think you will be, and you will be going to the beach a lot. So do pack like some stuff. But yeah, it's very, very sunny all the time. You know, fruit trees, palm trees, like it's very like tropical, really nice, like very.
Other questions from Mariana? And you can ask multiple questions. It's okay. It's not like students aren't like allotted like beans in the beginning. It's like once you know, yeah.
Did you ever feel like the language barrier was like a real issue, or would you say for the most part it was like you were fine?
I was actually really worried it would be an issue because I didn't know like a word of Greek at all. I would say it's not. Especially like in Athens, everyone speaks English there. And like when you go travel to like other cities, some people might not speak English, but everyone like around our age does because of like there's like everyone who goes to high school has to like everyone who graduates has to like graduate like fluency like an English exam. So anyone who's like young knows English fluently, and everyone else like do too because businesses are done in English and everything. And when you go to like the IKEA, which is kind of like a farmer trade, like kind of like craft kind of market thing that happens around like every Friday in the Topography, which is the neighborhood you're gonna be living at. Some of those people don't speak English, but you know, that's why I'd recommend taking the modern Greek, so then you at least learn how to, you know, say a few numbers and stuff, and hi, hello, you know, thank you, goodbye, please, whatever. And so you can, you know, you can communicate well enough. So I was able to like, you know, order coffee and read, and you know, get some fruits and vegetables without speaking English.
There's a question over here as well.
Oh, no, that was one.
No, coincidence. Endless. Other questions? Yeah, sure.
So I remember they were saying last time in the meeting that sometimes programs like this in Rome need like certain requirements before you go. Are there anything you need to have?
Yeah, we'll actually talk about that in a minute when we talk about general eligibility for CYA and also for Temple Rome. But that's an excellent question. We'll table that until to the end when we talk about eligibility requirements in general, but we'll 100% cover that. Yep. Other questions? Awesome. If I'm going to transition now to Temple Rome, we're going to continue to talk about sort of, some other things like the application process, so forth. So I'll ask you if you don't mind sticking around just for a little bit longer to chime in. That way, if anything else comes up that you forgot about, or other questions come up, we can address this as they come up. So awesome. So we're going to transition now to talking about Temple Rome. Temple Rome is also a program that's been operating for decades, founded in 1966. It is also located in the heart of the city. Beautiful, beautiful space, recently renovated. It's this entire building that you've got right here, all of those floors. It's an awesome setup. Very similar to Athens in that it's a center-based program. All of your courses are taught in English, with the exception, of course, of Italian. The housing, similarly, you're set up in apartments. The program does not provide any meals, so you're responsible for all your meals. You will have access to kitchen facilities in your apartment. So the expectation again is that you're buying groceries and cooking for yourself. Exactly the same as CYA. They do have a homestay program. My hope is that it'll be operational by the time you all end up making your way over. But for now, apartments are what they have available. In the event that you do have access to a homestay, one huge advantage is that you get breakfast and dinner in your homestay, and it's home cooked Italian food. I don't think I need to, emphasize that too much, but the students who've stayed at homestays have had an amazing experience there. So this program is designed to, in many ways, be like, a continuation of the Athens experience, particularly for folks who are coming from the classics. These two programs, we initially, we organized this around the idea of having classic students be able to have this sort of full spectrum of starting from Athens and then moving their way forward chronologically in time to Rome and getting to experience that full spectrum. But the program has opportunities for students in a whole range of disciplines. They have a really vibrant visual arts program there, really excellent architecture studies facilities that they have available. There's a lot of points of entry for students academically. Much like CYA, the program is built around basically taking advantage of Rome as a context for study. So you have these built-in academic excursions that include, portions of day trips into the city, day trips to nearby towns, and then they also offer these sort of larger, more sort of extended trips to other parts of Italy. They have a number of their classes have sort of built-in field visit components to where in a lot of cases you end up spending a majority of your classroom experience outside of the classroom, where say, okay, we'll meet up at this particular location for a lecture on this exact site. So it's this phenomenal experience, again, much like CYA, where you get to have these experts talking about these historic places right in front of them and sometimes inside of them. So it's really, really wonderful to for bringing these disciplines to life. They are really tapped into the local community, and so they host all kinds of events at their space. They have lecture series where they get folks to talk about all kinds of different things, film, politics, etc. They have a whole host of opportunities to plug students into outside of the classroom too, in the way of various tours, private tours, theater and sporting opportunities. Something they're really, really good at is volunteering opportunities. It's something that they care a lot about in terms of giving back to the community. And I know that for a lot of Holy Cross students, volunteerism is sort of an important part of the mission of being a Holy Cross student. So I think students who go to Temple Rome often really enjoy that aspect of it. They're also well connected in terms of having opportunities for students to do internships. So if that's an interest of yours, it's something that you work with them over a period of time to then try to have that set up for you, and you can hit the ground running. I'm going to show you a brief video just to kind of give you a little bit of a visual taste of what the program looks like. So if you'll bear with me. Okay, and for this, I am going to dim the lights, if you don't mind. Is this what we need? Yes, that's better.
Oh, at any time of the day.
My studios are great. I have big windows so I can look out and see the Tiber River, which is great. There's really nice lighting during the day. It's right near Piazza del Popolo, and there's a lot of great dining right around campus. There's a lot of delicious pizza shops, and there's a great fruit market right near school where you can go and get fruit and veggies. The faculty is super helpful and will guide you to things that you specifically may enjoy in Rome. Everyone's really knowledgeable.
Temple Rome offers a lot of programs that allow students to integrate with the culture. The one that I chose to do was teaching English to Italian high school students.
It's very helpful for us having Taylor as a teacher because we can improve our pronunciation in English, and she is very fun.
Just going every week to the class, I learn a little bit about their culture and they learn something from me.
Allora ragazzi, adesso facciamo la sfida.
To be able to step out of Temple University and walk a short amount of time into Piazza del Popolo, which is a center point of Rome, is a real privilege to see how people use the space and how the city works around the landmarks that you've learned about, but you haven't seen it living, and seeing it living is a whole different thing. We're given a sketchbook class or a photography class where we can go around the city. We start to look at the details, and especially studying in the city is such a privilege because you have professors and a faculty that's devoted to helping you learn more about the city and the culture.
Awesome. So once again, I can't emphasize enough just how centrally located this program is. I mean, you step out of your academic building and you're within walking distance of just, again, you're in the heart of Rome. You have all these magnificent monuments that are just steps away. So let me get back in here. And so I'm going to transition here to talking a little bit about academics, and then we'll get to the end and we'll kind of have open questions where you can ask questions about Temple Rome specifically, or just, application process in general. But I want to talk a little bit about academics, and this applies for both of these contexts. So the first thing I'll say is that in terms of course load, you will be taking a minimum of 4 courses. In both of these programs, you have the opportunity to take a 5th course at no extra cost. A lot of students do end up taking advantage of it. It sounds like both of the students at CYA took advantage of that. It sounds like you both enrolled with the potential, thinking that maybe you drop one of them if, and then ultimately decided to stick it out. Is that, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So, just they have such really interesting courses that a lot of times students are, ultimately, if I can get an extra course in and enjoy it, fabulous, right? And so a typical course load looks like this, so where you have one of your courses in the local language. I have an asterisk here over Italian because for Temple Rome, it's a requirement that you take one of your 4 or 5 courses must be in must be in Italian language. So as you're preparing, sort of doing academic planning, you need to account for having to take one course of Italian there. And if you've had some background in Italian, they have obviously various levels, and they can plug you into whichever level you've had. If you've never had any, that's okay too, and then you can ultimately get plugged in. For CYA, it's not a requirement to take modern Greek. However, it's strongly recommended, and I think you can talk. You mentioned that how it enhances the experience and makes it. Anything else you want to add about that?
No, just do it. Because most people there, like a lot of the schools, but since require the students to take, so it fills up quickly. So make sure you put that as one of your choices to to get class in there. Because I have to they put me on a wait list, and I have to email them repeatedly to get into good time class.
Oh, that's actually really helpful feedback. I'll more incentive to have folks make sure they plan to do that. And then as far as the other courses, so where historically both of these programs had been sort of pretty narrowly tailored to students in the classics, or in the case of Temple Rome, classics and visual arts, They have made a concerted effort in the past several years to kind of open up their curriculum to be able to accommodate folks from other disciplines. I think that in general, they still, those emphases are still there. So in terms of the disciplines that have the most sort of like robust offerings, that they will be, you know, classics, art history, visual arts, etc. But for those of you who are, you know, in other majors and looking to be, you know, potentially admitted to the program, or if you are trying to, you know, round out certain common area requirements that you had been hoping to fulfill, they do have programs, as you can see, across a broad range of disciplines in both areas. One of the things that's nice about both of these programs is that they post the sort of full list of classes that they have available on their websites, with the caveat that you know, they may change, that it's designed to be sort of representative of what's typical, but you know, specific course titles might change and so forth. But that's, again, a nice thing you can kind of, you know, plan at least somewhat in advance to see sort of the range of courses that are offered. So you know, I'm hoping that we'll, you know, set up individual meetings and where I can guide you through each of those. But the point to emphasize here is that you have, you know, courses across all of these. They're not as great in general on natural sciences. So, you know, if there are those among you who happen to be, you know, hoping to, you know, satisfy several, you know, bio requirements, that's one thing you're not going to find here. It's more tailored to humanities and social sciences. So the question about eligibility requirements came up earlier. So, so to address that now. So again, with the, you know, the ethos of our program is that we want to send students to places where they're a good fit for the program, and where we're sending good ambassadors from our institution, right? So this program is in principle limited to students in these specific disciplines that we feel really have opportunities to enrich their study by focusing on those contexts for learning. So obviously classics, art history, visual arts, and architecture studies. That having been said, in both of these programs, we have sent many students who are not in those majors. And the way that it works is simply, you and I have conversations to talk through ultimately what you need to do, which was to identify sort of a compelling academic need to study in these places, right? We want the reason for you to be there to be grounded in your study, right? So, and we can tell that is broadly defined, right? So the aim here is not to sort of set things up in a way where you just have to jump through a bunch of like needless bureaucratic hoops, you know, just, you know, for the sake of itself. It's just to make sure that this program is indeed a good fit, and that, you know, we're sending a cohort of students that that are serious about their studies, serious about these particular contexts. And so it's not something you need to be concerned about if you're not in one of those majors. It's just a process, and we'll go through it together. So the suggested GPA for this program is a 3.0, as I mentioned in the general info session last night. If you happen to be under that or borderline, something along those lines, it's not something that you need to worry about to the point of not applying. You should apply to your first choice program regardless. And then again, you let us be the ones that decide your eligibility, because often there end up being things that you can do in the way of, you know, we have relationships with them. If you're borderline, we can ask for conditional approval. There's almost always an alternative pathway. And these are two programs where we do have some flexibility. As I've mentioned in the info session as well, no course deficiencies. So if you withdrew from a class and you haven't yet made that class up, you need to do so prior to studying abroad. To be clear, it's okay if you have a deficiency now entering the application process. You can submit an application and get approved with a deficiency, but you will be required to address that deficiency prior to actually studying abroad. Does that make sense? Are we clear on? Okay, great. And you can fulfill those deficiencies by taking a fifth class, say during the spring semester, taking summer courses, things along those lines. One other thing that's important is that you have to have declared a major prior to going abroad. We obviously understand that this is a time when students are often finalizing that and getting approvals for for their majors, et cetera. So it's not an expectation that you have a major at the time of submitting your application, but you do need to have it declared prior to going abroad, because we want to make sure that you're in a good position to satisfy all the requirements and graduate on time for your program study. Did that address your questions as far as eligibility was concerned? Okay, awesome. Other questions about eligibility? Okay, awesome. Applying is really, really straightforward. As I had mentioned in the info session last night, you apply online at sa.holycross.edu. It's a simple sort of online form. You go in, you fill out basic information. The sort of most significant things that you're going to have to do are, the first is to write a personal statement where in 2 to 3 pages tops, double space, you essentially just talk to me, and then ultimately, and I say me literally, like you'll be talking to me, I'll be reading these, and explaining which program you've chosen and why it's a good fit for you, right? A lot of times, again, folks go into this process with nightmarish flashbacks of applying to college, and that's not that. I mean, if it's not super clear, I want you, all of you, to go on these programs. It's more about, talking to me and sort of ultimately yourself as you're writing it to convince, us that this is the right program and not some other program. That's my main thing, is when folks are applying, I want to make sure of the various programs that we have, the one that you've picked is the one that's the right one for you on, on academic grounds, on, in terms of the social and cultural experiences you hope to gain, linguistic development, et cetera. So as much as you can ground your letter in the specifics of your program, like I think this is the right program for me because it has these things that enabled me to fulfill these academic goals. That's what we're looking for with this. So it's not, again, about like, if, convincing me that you're awesome, because I'm already convinced you got in here, all of you are awesome. It's more about the fit for the program. And then the other thing is that you would need, both of these programs require a letter of recommendation. So if, let's say, you are should be considering applying to the classics year, which is pairing a fall semester in Greece with a spring semester in Italy, in Rome, then you just need the one letter of recommendation, and that you should be asking your the faculty members that you're reaching out to write their letter of recommendation program general. In other words, like, don't recommend you for a specific program, recommend you as a candidate for study abroad in general. That way it can apply. We can send those letters of recommendation to, either CYA or Temple Rome. The other thing that I wanted to mention, this is a bit of a sidebar, but before I forget, is you have the ability, if you choose, to do, as I just said, pair fall semester in Athens with a spring semester in Rome. But both of these programs also, assuming that it works out for you curricularly, you can do a full year in either of those locations. And we've had students do that in both CYA and also at Temple Rome. So just be aware of that is also an awesome opportunity you can take advantage of if you want to really focus on a particular place. And then I believe that the system requires you to upload an unofficial copy of your transcript. Cannot emphasize enough this passport business, right? If you don't have a passport at the time of applying, that's okay, but you will be expected to provide evidence that you have applied for one if you don't have one, right? So but just because of processing delays, if you end up needing to apply to a program to go in the fall, that process starts in early spring typically, and often your passport information is needed at that point. So definitely something you want to get on quick. We've provided information to you to help you do that. Questions? Oh, actually, any guidance on navigating the application process and getting advising and all that good stuff?
So, well, I don't know if I'm gonna try to say, but like, so I was originally planning to go to Temple Rome in the spring, in the fall, and then Florence in the spring. That was the original program. So I had my professor recommend me for that. But then, like, because of the pandemic, things changed. I ended up going to CYA. But yeah, like professors, like I had no problem with professors. I did choosing to recommend, like they're all like more than happy to recommend this. It can be like either like a professor from like specific class that has like something to do with like what you want to do, or it could be like like an advisor or like a master professor, like any part that like you've taken before and they know you pretty well. They know your academic work, they know you can keep up, they know you're trustworthy candidate.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's often a question that students ask, is if it has to be somebody that's in your major, and it does not necessarily. Often students will, as I believe you mentioned, you go with a Montserrat professor. Is it somebody that knows them really well? You want to go with somebody who's in the best position to to comment on you as a student, and so has had experience with you. They have some kind of relationship with them. So that's helpful. Any other tips for managing the process in terms of finding the right program and ways to navigate that path successfully?
I feel like ours is a little bit different though,
In terms of
like applying, because I didn't actually technically apply for CYA.
no. I mean, in this case, I'm more, talking about when you apply to your initial program in terms of getting that initial choice, because that was a process too. Yeah.
That's true, yeah. I believe I got like one letter from like one of my professors I'd taken like 2 classes with, and I took one from like my advisor, and then like they were more than happy to recommend me. Just make sure, like, that you're like remind your professors that they know that you have to submit by a certain deadline themselves. They don't forget that. And then like I had a lot of meetings with like the study abroad office for like financial concerns, or like I mean with the bursar office, and I got like everything worked out eventually. I felt really stressed out looking back. I'm just like I had no reason to stress. Like it all worked out perfectly. My financial completely transferred over, and everything actually ended up getting like a $3,000 refund from the school, like all of the community financial aid and everything. That had like like no regular room board on campus, so like all that money just ended up getting this refund. I just used to pay for CYA. And then like and just make sure keep up with your application, do a little bit every day. And then like I recommend the writers workshop. I went there for like a few times to like look over my essays and stuff like that. They're very helpful.
Questions about the application process? So the last thing I just want to mention, again, I personally, it's important to me that students go into this process with us being transparent about, things like finances, right? We don't try to bury these things. We firmly believe, as I had, indicated in the info session last night, that we do a pretty awesome job of trying to make study abroad as cost neutral as possible. But again, it's important to be aware of the things that you need to be planning for. As I said, again, you build Holy Cross room and tuition. The board fees again vary depending on how much food the program provides you. One thing that's actually cool, and did you take advantage of the activity fee reimbursement? Like, did you do like the marble carving card? Yeah. So that was like what, 130 euros or something like that, and then
I think it was a little bit less because we had like less.
Okay.
Than usual.
Oh, okay.
But,
So there's this great thing that not for every reason, not all students take advantage of, but you should, where if you find certain like artistic, athletic, or cultural activities to get involved with in your city that cost money to do, you get a budget if you go for a semester of $175, $200 if you're there for the academic year, where you pay for it up front, but then you send me your receipts and I send them off to our billing coordinator and she reimburses you for those. So it's the spirit of that is like, it's designed to where like, we really want students to get, let's say you go to one of these places, Athens or Greece, where the programs, to be perfectly frank, are not designed to really integrate you into terms of like meeting with like other local, students your age. But let's say you find like a soccer club or something that's there, and you want to join up and sort of recreationally, but there's startup fees or this or that. It's designed to help you to be able to do those kinds of things as well. So so definitely take advantage. Flights, again, as I said, you buy your plane ticket up front, but then you'll receive a credit in the amount of an average round trip ticket from Boston to either Rome or to Athens, and then visa fees are your responsibility as well. $70 is approximate amount for the Italian visa fee. That's pretty accurate. What was? Do you have a sense of what the fees were for the Greek fees? I'm less involved in that process. Oh, that's right, because you were there for the sort of a shorter period of time. That's right. I think it's comparable. So yeah, I'd forgotten that you were there for they did an abridged version of the program so they could avoid doing the visa. Yes.
Do we apply for the visa via the school or do we get it on campus?
Yeah, so that process will vary depending on on which program you apply to. So if you're doing Temple Rome, we manage the Italian visa application process, where we give you sort of painstaking details about everything that you need to do. And then I personally go to the Italian consulate, submit your visa applications on your behalf, and then collect your visas and then deliver them to you. When it comes to CYA, if you're going to Athens, they will manage that process in much the same way. I think in that case, the expectation is typically that they give you all the instructions that you need, and then you personally make an appointment at the typically it ends up being the Greek consulate in Boston, where you present your materials, and then but they guide you through that process. Yep, good question. Other questions? Yes.
So this is more general question.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I'm curious if you do a year in one particular program.
Yeah.
Do you just have to speak the language for one semester to fill the requirement, or do you have to speak it for both?
So can you say that one more time? So if you
If you do a year long
yeah.
abroad in one singular city, would you have to take the language for both semesters, or just?
Oh, I see. So like as an example, let's say Italian, if you went to Rome for a year, is that requirement that you take one semester of Italian language,
Right.
or sorry, one of your 4 courses, it has to be Italian. Does that apply for both the first and the second semester? That's actually a good question, and I don't immediately know the answer to that. Let's talk, and we can figure that out. It happens so infrequently that I mean, we've definitely had students go for the year. My sense is that often it ends up being to students' advantage to continue on if there are compelling curricular reasons for you to not do it. In other words, that doing so, continuing in Italian would come at the cost of program of study. Then at that point we would be I think we would let you not do it. But that would vary probably program to sort of student to student. Yeah. But it's a good question. Yeah.
Can I add on to that? I
Yeah,
think
sure.
You need 2 consecutive semesters of a language.
Yeah.
So say you do 1 semester and you take Italian in Italy,
Yeah.
the second semester will be like the same follow-up. If I take Italian at Holy Cross, or would it be something?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. So often what I recommend is so it sort of varies based on what configuration of program you end up deciding on, right? So like I'll give you an example though. So bottom line is, if you have an interest in going to Italy, as an example, I recommend that you try to take some Italian before you go. It's like the best way to kind of feel like get the most out of that experience. And the one thing that I really recommend is let's say you were interested in it, but didn't get into 101 for whatever reason. You have the ability to in the spring. So this coming spring semester, you can take Italian, what's called 103, which is essentially at 101 and 102, so first and second semester Italian combined in an intensive course. And that with that course, that would give you, the 1 course in Italian, and then you could continue on in Italy to take the next level of Italian, and those 2 would satisfy your requirements. But where it gets somewhat tricky is it's easier to answer your question. It's easier if you take the first semester of Italian at Holy Cross and then go to Temple Rome, just because our language courses at Holy Cross are quite rigorous. It's not to say that they aren't at Temple Rome or at any of our abroad locations, but getting that to articulate is often easier starting at Holy Cross and then concluding while you're there. But let's talk about it, and we can figure out a plan that makes sense for you. Yep. There's always a solution. Yeah. Other questions about anything at this point? Yeah. Yes.
You're with Temple University students, correct?
In terms of who the students are there? So it is certainly a good, healthy contingent of Temple students, but then also all kinds of other partner schools throughout the country. So we're one partner program that they have, but there are lots of other member schools that send students there. Yep. So yeah, good question. Yes.
If you're living in an apartment, you have the ability to choose live with people you already know.
So it varies, but I think in both cases, they deliberately try to place you with students that you don't already know. And while on some level I can see how that could feel, particularly if you're close with folks that you're let's say you're applying to do it together and you want to live together, I can understand why that could be some potentially frustrating. Honestly, it's one of the best things that can happen to you is being paired with somebody else, because it forces you to break out of that bubble and sort of establish more of a cohort dynamic. So, and I think that's the case for both of these. In Rome, you're typically in a suite type setup where you've got multiple roommates. You have your own room, and then that's it with a multi-bedroom apartment. So it's a great opportunity to get to know folks from other places. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
So I know you say you don't do like biology, but like if I wanted to do like some of like the supplementals like statistics, social sciences, do they offer those?
The course offerings vary by program. How specific you get, well, again, it totally varies, but it's one of those things where I can point you in the direction of the website and you can scan through and like, this is what they got. Yeah. So so as far as statistics specifically, I'm not completely sure. I don't think, what's your major or what's your plan? Bio, okay. Bio, so for students who are in STEM disciplines or really majors that are outside of, the sort of pre-authorized ones, I recommend that you and I have an individual advising appointment, and we can walk through exactly how to, come up with a couple of different plans as far as how to organize your courses to get there. Yeah, so absolutely. Other questions? So this has been the info session for CYA and for Temple Rome. Really, really grateful to Mariana for spending the time with us here. Want to give her again applause for sharing her time with us. Any parting thoughts to leave with these students as they go into the application process?
Go to CYA.
Excellent. So again, Mariana is also an official ambassador, and so her information is on our website under the ambassadors. She's obviously expert in CYA, but she also has been trained to talk about study abroad in general at Holy Cross and has been through the full application process. So please feel free to reach out to her with questions that you have. And I strongly urge each of you to reach out to me and set up appointments and talk through the details for your own programs to study and getting things figured out about, what place makes the most sense or places, and we'll get you on your way. I'm going to stick around for a little bit if you wanted to approach me with individual questions, but that concludes the formal part of the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Thank you.